Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Premier Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. We are live on YouTube, Facebook, X, and Rumble. Joined alongside Tim in Green Bay. We got Jacob in Wisconsin here to talk some Packers. Obviously, took the night off last night, but gave you guys an oldie but a goodie as we re-aired the interview with Tony Mandarich that we did last year. It was a lot of fun breaking that down and got a lot of good feedback. We'll kind of dive into that first and foremost. Matter of fact, let's just jump into it, and then I'll see if you guys got anything before we jump into the topic for tonight. So over in our Patreon group, just had a couple comments about it. Thought it was cool. Papa Smurf says, the Mandarich interview was inspiring. Great job. CJN said, this interview with Tony Mandarich is awesome, not just for the fans of your show, but for the show itself. Absolutely proud to be going into my third season with this group and watching the channel grow. So tremendously proud of you and the PTA crew. We appreciate those kind words, CJN.
Yeah, well said, CJN, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then Trevor Anderson said, I'm a little behind. Well, first, let me say this about the Tony Mandarich thing. If you guys haven't heard it, I know we've got a lot of new viewers and a lot of new listeners. That's the reason you're seeing new feedback. I had a bunch of YouTube comments, people going, this is awesome. Has nothing to do with me in the interview. It was all Tony just telling his story. I mean, you're talking about a guy who, when you hear the name Tony Mandarich, because the media took it and he's the greatest bust in NFL draft history and blah, blah, blah. The guy ended up playing like 10 years in the league, 8 years in the league, something like that. But because he didn't live up to that number 2 height. And I love how he told his story from a sense of, I was stupid coming in the league. Like I was immature. I was selfish. I was all these things. And I tried to, I don't know if you guys, when was the last time you heard it, but I tried to give him an out.
Today. I heard it today on the way home. Yeah.
My favorite part of it was I tried to give him an out. Like, well, listen, Tony, like, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but I was like, that team, they were a dumpster fire in '89. You know what I mean? Like they were still trying to get everything situated. That was, before they really, went and got Mike Holmgren and this and that. And I was trying to give him like hey, look, it ain't just all you. The organization was in a bad place then. And he fired right back and was like, they gave me every opportunity to be successful.
Yep.
So no Tony Mandarich slander on this program. I'm sorry, just can't have it. I love the fact that he's bold in his faith and hey, look, he made some mistakes and now he's got his life straightened out. And man, just a great conversation. We message each other from time to time, and it's an honor to call him a friend of the show and all that. So anything you guys want to add to that before we get into this?
My biggest takeaway was when you guys wrapped that interview up in the second hour, and he was basically talking about him doing public speaking and trying to tell his story, and he said basically that there's a lot of people that got the first half of his story, and maybe not everyone's interested in the second half of his story and how it turned out, but boy, does it help him in his recovery and his process and the journey that he's on, and even if it reaches one person, it's worth it. And I think it's a testament to him owning his mistakes of his past and, being the man that we see before us today. So I'm real grateful that he took that time, man, to sit down with you and do that interview, man. It was awesome.
The part that impacted me the most, Jacob, was like when he said, everybody, and I'm paraphrasing again, but it was like, I remember him specifically saying, everybody's kind of passionate about this and they're bold about their faith in that and they're bold about their stance here politically and this and that. We need to be a little more bold about our faith, meaning Christian,
Yep.
And not to say you go out and knock other people. It's just like, hold up a minute. We've kind of been lulled into this whole, well, I don't want to push it on anybody. I don't want to mention my faith, this and that. And he's like, flush that. I'm done with that. I love that aspect of it, of the message he gave there. But anyway, Jacob, anything?
Yeah, no, I haven't listened to it in the last maybe 3-4 months, but I have listened to it multiple times. And like Tim said, a lot of people know how his career started and then the mid part, but a lot of people have no idea that, I believe, wasn't it the Colts where he ended up having a really good career? I mean, a really, really good career. I wouldn't even say like a decent career, like a really good, solid career. Obviously, he's going to have that stigma of being a bust no matter what, but I think it's nice listening to the guy. You can clearly tell that he has battled internal demons and came across the other side and has won, and he doesn't hold any regrets or I think shame. He's very willing to admit, like, hey, I F this up, and I did it multiple times, and I had people that were trying to help me along the way, and I spit in their face basically, and then like it's honestly refreshing to see somebody that says it was me. Nobody else is to blame.
Ability and ownership, and that's missing in this world, right, Jacob?
Yeah. Shout out to, because now my new favorite card that I have, and I've got a lot of memorabilia, is the Tony Mandarich sign.
Yeah.
Did we get that from, was it Rick who sent those out to us?
Mm-hmm. And here's what's crazy. Rick messaged me today. I believe it was either today or last night. And this was so cool. I thought he sent those cards because of that interview. But keep in mind, our listener and viewership is just like grown. I mean, like we're averaging over 200,000 views per every 28 days, including all of our content, right? So I just assumed, oh, that's why he sent the Tony Mandarich card. Here's what he messaged me. And he said, hey, Clayton, didn't mean to bothered you, but I would just watch the Tony Mandarich interview you did. Incredible. Thanks for that. So wild that I sent all 4 of you guys autographed cards of Tony, not knowing about the interview. I'm so glad I did. What a great individual. I said, that's crazy. I just assumed you did because you did it because I interviewed. And he said, not at all. I just really like Tony. What a classy guy. And to survive what he went through is a true miracle. That was one of the best podcasts I've ever listened to. Thanks for that. Really inspirational. He asked if he ever been back to Lambeau, and I said, I don't think he has. Originally, we were talking about, hey, let's try to get him up there for the draft and this and that. I dropped the ball there. I didn't follow back up. I should have been like, hey, Tony, let's get you up here, But there's a fine line, too, when you're talking to former players and this and that. Emilio will tell you this.
Yep.
I'm the dude, like when we were at the restaurant that night, Tim, you've seen it.
Yeah,
I ain't going to talk to nobody. Like, I'm just kind of like, I don't want to. They're trying to have a comfortable moment. And I'm not trying to dog anybody who does that, but that's just my personality. Yeah. Again, Mandy refers to me as a stick in the mud. Emilio going over, throwing his arms around players, snapping selfies and taking pictures. He don't give a rat's, you know what. So I think he actually asked a couple of those players. I think he went over to Bullard's table and asked him if he could hold 100. That's what I think happened there. But Ed Madden says Tony Mandarich was a good guard for, I think, the Colts. He was. He ended up playing for the Colts and got everything straightened out. And again, just go back and listen to it because I don't want to screw it up.
That's the huge thing that gets glossed over in his story, and he won't take any credit for it. But the fact that he said it himself, he went from not being able to get off the couch as a person that was dealing with addiction and other issues to literally putting together 3 solid seasons as a pro in Indianapolis. And that in and of itself is, you got to love a comeback story, right? Who doesn't love a comeback story? And that's one of the best. So big shout out to Tony Mandarich.
Yeah. 2-0 for this says, is there a reason Tony hasn't gone back to Lambeau? I don't think so. Now, if I remember correctly, I want to say he's in Texas or Arizona now, and he owns a business down there. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that kind of made me hesitant on the whole draft thing was, not wanting to bother him, but also if he were to go to the draft and hang out with us and we have one of these casual ass fans.
Oh man, I already know.
First of all, Tony could twist their head off their shoulder, but I'm probably going to end up there in the Brown County Clink for the evening. I'm just telling you, because that's probably one of the reasons to over this is because when you hear Packer fans talk about Tony, it's always about being a bust and being a bust and being a bust.
Right.
And I'm telling you, man, when we aired that, there was none of those comments. People were like, holy cow, I had no idea that's what this dude went through and fought through and this and that. And again, he didn't play victim at all. Like all this stuff he said he brought onto himself. So
maybe we can get him up here for camp this summer. Maybe we can maybe reach out. The invitation's definitely open.
Mm-hmm. Because, and we'll move on after this, but the vibe I get is even though it was kind of a negative experience for him in Green Bay, it was all self-induced. And that was the thing that turned his life around, was like realizing, all right, I gotta get my head out of my, so
for sure.
I'm with you. Chris says Mandarich should come back to Lambeau this season. I would love that, man. Would absolutely love that. So, all right. In the Patreon group, Trevor Anderson says, I'm a little behind, but listening to you talk about Shamar Stewart And I don't think he holds any blame for the contract situation. All he wants is a normal rookie contract, and the Bengals are trying to work in language never before used by any or in any rookie deal to get precedent the entire league will be able to use. He is 100% right to not let them do that. It seems every contract situation the Bengals made it a sideshow. I agree with the latter part. However, Trevor, it was reported that 20 other teams use the same exact language in their rookie deals. And again, Shamar Stewart's side saying they're trying to make sure they get some of the guaranteed money back if it don't work out. And then on the agent side, which was Adam Schefter talking about, you guys know these insiders are typically getting information from the agents group, whichever one you believe, that's cool. But he said they were trying to put language in the contract that if anything happened off the field, he would have to pay the guaranteed money back. There was a certain aspect of that. So, I agree the Bengals are a crap show, but if this was going on with any other team right now, and it kind of feels like Shamar Stewart, if there are indeed 20 other teams that have the same language in their contract, there's only one who's refused. And here's the other thing. He refused to sign the document to participate in the mini camp. Okay. And what that means is, hey, you're covered. If you get hurt, you're covered. Your money's guaranteed. Come in and contribute in the mini camp. He refused to sign that until his main contract was done. Yeah. He was the only rookie to do that this year, to the best of my knowledge. So that's another thing that kind of throws a little bit of a red flag. And then he walked out on practice the other day and this and that. Again, this isn't to try to paint Shamar Stewart as any worse than this whole incident may already have him looking. And the Bengals are a horrible organization. There's no two ways about it. So I think both things can be true to a certain extent, but I did hear that 20 other teams had that same language. Just wanted to mention that there, Trevor. Anything you guys want to add to that comment here in the Patreon group? Anything at all?
Yeah, I mean, with all the quote-unquote drama that the Packers have kind of been engulfed in, especially the last maybe 3, 4, 5 years, it is nice to see that there are other teams going that have – I mean, I'll be honest. If I was a Bengals fan, I would be pulling my hair out just at that front office, just being, why are you doing this to us? Like, can you just walk away and just stop stirring the pot and getting every single person that is important to this team absolutely livid? Because it seems like that's all they're really good at nowadays is
right,
pissing off every single person that they have on that team and the fan base to the point where they're going out and making like press conferences at practice. You know what I mean? So again, it's just nice to take a step back and realize that even though it's not perfect, it's not all rainbows and unicorns and all that, but being a Packer fan is definitely things could be a lot worse. He could be a Bears fan.
You got that right. H.E. Solder says, do we know what the clawback language was for the other 20 teams? Bengals position seems overly broad. Yeah, the only thing I heard was Adam Schefter say on that morning pod that it was about the Bengals wanted to make sure they were protected if any off-the-field incidents occurred, meaning they could get that guaranteed money back. And he was trying to have it put in the contract that if something did happen, he still gets the guaranteed money. That's the way I understood it there. And it's really weird because Adam Schefter, like I said, typically comes from the agent's side, right? So it was just kind of odd. Maybe, and here's the other thing, maybe some people in the organization went to Schefter and put a birdie out there that, hey, this is what's really going on, and that might not even be true. Who knows, right? So, again, I'm glad you brought it up, though, Trevor, because it makes me appreciative of how the Packers are doing business with their organization and obviously these signings and everything. Chase Green says, Clayton, I want to know who is pulling on counter run plays now that Jenkins is at center. Is it Banks, Morgan, Sean Ryan? Those counter plays create explosives last season in the 49ers and others. I know there's plenty of tape out there on Banks, Chase, of him getting to the next level. I mean, there was one clip of him running. They ran a counter left. So he didn't, obviously didn't pull across the formation, but he kicked out and he was like 35 yards downfield blocking. I can't remember who posted that clip when we first signed him.
That was right when we signed him. I remember seeing that. That's when I said, man, that dude can move for a guy that big, man.
Right. And on top of that, you guys remember last year, there was one play in particular. I want to say it was within the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. Sean Ryan, 45 yards down the field as a lead blocker. So, Chase, I don't think you want to – not that you would want to do this, but I think as an organization or as a a scheming point, you don't want to be predictable and like, here's our pull guard, here's our pull guard, here's our pull guard, right? You want to be able to do it pretty much from any angle, from any side, and keep the defense guessing. But I'm with you. Elton was good at that. Elton was really good at arriving at confrontation under control. And that's where Josh Myers struggled. Josh Myers had the athleticism to get down there. He had the athleticism to get out to the next level from the center position.
That was the problem a lot of the times, is he was at the next level when he didn't need to be.
Right. And when he got out there, it was like, okay, I made it. Now what the hell do I do? Right. So, yeah. All right. Let's see here. Brambo says they want all to be able to void all the guaranteed money in one infraction versus just the contract year it happened in, which 20 other teams didn't ride in, unless Ryan's pod from today is wrong. So it sounds like there was 20 teams that didn't ride it in. So that means there's 12, if that's accurate. There's 12 teams that did ride it in, is what it sounds like. So you're kind of seeing this shift now, right? Where the rookies are going, okay, they've already got us hemmed up where this money is somewhat limited in terms of the overall contract. And now you got to work out the guarantees and this and that and the other. But it sounds like now they're trying to pull back a little bit more to get a little more leverage in that regard. So I need to go listen to Ryan's pod. I hadn't heard it yet. It's been a kind of a busy day, busy in a bad way, not a good day. Usually when you're busy, you get to listen to a lot of pods. Today it was one of those getting pissed off because you were constantly having to take the earbuds out of the ears. You know what I mean? One of those days. So appreciate that information, Brambo. You're the man. All right, that's going to do it for the Patreon group. Let's dive into a little Packers Lions talk. Before we do, Jacob, do you got anything you've come across today, man? Anything at all that maybe came down the pike? I know news is kind of dead this time of year, but yeah, anything?
Honestly, no. I mean, I've been trying to find like little nuggets or articles. There's just really nothing. Although, hey, if you want to talk about stuff I found, I was telling the guys, I'll show you guys. Went to Goodwill today. Just trying to get like a little piece of soap for the gym, and then stumbled on 3 unique Brett Favre plates, all numbered, individual itemized, 3 different ones. They were for $2.99. Tim said he looked them up online. They're anywhere from 30 to 40, 50 bucks. So get her
Score.
done.
Love it.
I like to thrift. You know what I mean?
Hey, Mandy hit the jackpot in Rockford, Illinois the other day. She just started firing pictures over to me. They were up there for a wedding.
Packer stronghold, by the way, for all you Bears fans in Illinois. Rockford is deep with Packer fans for sure.
So she just started firing these pictures of, hey, do you want this program? Bro, they're in perfect condition. I told you guys about this, 1992, 93, 94, 95, 96. I've been reading them. It's like my bedtime story every night going through there, man, and seeing the old ads and everything. It's absolutely awesome. I thought about doing an episode and sharing some content on the Patreon group, take some pictures of that program, just some key, maybe my favorite 3 or 4 pages, just to take people back in time a little bit. Really, really, really cool how it was set up. So, yeah, Jacob.
Clint says raffle them. Shut up, Clint. No.
That's a great idea, Clint. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, we should do that, Jacob. Come on. Be a team player, Jacob.
To be fair, I got nowhere to put them. So
you got to get the 4th. It's a 4-piece set.
And they come with these nice little metal clanks on the thing.
Yeah, I see that. Is it like a stand? It's own little stand?
So you can hook them and hang them.
Oh, nice, nice.
Right on the wall. Boy, I tell you, I'm so proud of myself. Oof.
All right, let's get into it. Little Packers Lions talk. So what we did here, PFF has updated their website. This is really, really cool. Not that weird picture, but it's really cool how they've done this. So you guys remember last year when you go into the week of a game and you could look at the lineup matchups? Well, now they've got it year round where you can match up any 2 lineups like that. So it's really, really cool. Now, listen, we're somewhat limited in the information here from a stance of they may have some guys starting in these starting lineups that we would disagree with, but we can just kind of patch it together and mention those specific positions. But anyway, how did the Packers stack up against the Lions? Below is a PFF comparison of the Packers-Lions matchup. If you guys want to check this out yourself, just go to patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access or scan the QR code in the upper right. This is a part of the exclusive content that we send you guys. Just putting a bunch of information together. And listen, you're not going to get these long, lengthy articles like you do on other websites. This is just going to be straight to the point. Hey, here's what you're looking at. Here's the comparison, that type of stuff. Just data-driven type approach. So below is the PFF comparison of the Packers-Lions matchups, all right? And here's what we did. We started off with 11 versus nickel, okay? 11 versus nickel, and I'll try to I can scroll up and down. I want to keep this on the screen where you guys can see it well enough. So when we look at the 11 personnel here for the Green Bay Packers, let's start on the offensive line. From left to right, Rasheed Walker, 68, Banks, 65, Jenkins, 65, Morgan, 59, but kind of an incomplete grade with the injury, and then Zach Tom, just a solid 85.8 grade. Now, when you look at their defensive line across the front there for their nickel set, from left to right, you've got from the defense's perspective, so keep in mind this is right edge. From our perspective, we're going to say, the left side. All right. Davenport, 53, but an incomplete grade. Williams must be a rookie. I don't know who that is. Number 91, incomplete grade. McNeil, 79.6. Somebody help me in the chat. Is it McNeil starting the season hurt? If you guys would check that for me in the chat real quick and post down there. You guys keep an eye on it for me. I'm pretty sure McNeil got hurt late in the season last year with a knee injury. So, and then, of course, Aiden Hutchinson destroyed his leg last year, and he's going to be looking to try to come back. Now, will he be ready for week one? We'll see. Again, I'm kind of hesitant on just a slam dunk. Yeah, he's going to be perfectly fine this year because that dude's leg looked like linguine wrapped around that other dude's leg.
Confirmed it on McNeil, Clay. He ACL injury.
Yeah. So, and Brambo said he's hurt bad.
Yep.
I'm wondering what week, Tim, do you know what week that was by chance?
Week 15, December 15th against the Bills. So that would be what, week 15?
Mm-hmm.
If you had, I'm just spitballing, 15, 14, something along there.
That's pretty late, bro. Yeah, December 16th ACL is what ATAM's saying. So week 15's Bates just confirmed. Week 15. So you're looking at, golly, that would have been December. So you're looking 10 months, I think is what Gary came back on, if I remember correctly.
I'm just saying December 16th ACL.
Yeah. So if it was December 16th, 12 months would be December 16th. Then you go back 10 months, so we'd be November. So you're probably looking at a mid-October return for him at the earliest, I would imagine, for a big fellow like that. So that's going to play into that early season, you know what I mean? Early season competing there. So Aaron Rodgers with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, what's up, fellas? I see the vision. My post on X blew up with the comparison of the Sports Illustrated picture of the 2011 offense. Go Pack, go. Oh, that's right. You photoshopped in some guys, didn't you?
That was dope.
Yeah, we need to, don't let me forget, and we'll try to show that at the end of the show when we get through this information. It was really cool. He basically took and added Matthew Golden. You guys remember that Sports Illustrated picture of Aaron Rodgers sitting there with his receivers? Mm-hmm. So he photoshopped in Jordan Love and Matthew Golden. It looked pretty clean, too. I ain't going to lie, man. For me, that thing would look like a third grader did it. So pretty smooth by Aaron. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. I love it, man. And listen, that could be the case, That could be the case. One thing about comparing Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love in their early careers, Aaron's early portion of his career and where Jordan's at right now, there's no two ways about it. Aaron Rodgers had much better receivers those first 4 years as a starter. There's no doubt about that. So thank you for that super chat. So across the front there, again, guys, you're looking at their two best players on that defensive line, Jacob, starting the season banged up, man. And I don't know when Aiden Hutchinson will come back. It just depends on how that rehab went. We'll find out. I can't imagine he participated fully in the mini camp and everything, but we'll find out in training camp if he's good to go yet or not.
Yeah, I mean, the Lions team right now, I hate saying that they're a paper tiger or anything like that, but there are so many questions and a lot of questions that aren't going to get answered until week one. And a lot of theories will be put to test. But like you said, I mean, if McNeil's not there, Hutchinson's on the mend. That Williams guy, I believe, is a first-year guy. Davenport's not great. The secondary looks like they need to take a step up for sure. I know they're usually pretty comfortable with their linebackers. I think Anzalone is one of the more overrated guys as far as just being like consistently. You see his name flashing around, but I feel like he's always graded a little bit under where people think he is. I mean, losing both your coordinators, I think a lot of that can compound on over itself. And plus the fact that the Lions don't know how to be consistently a good team. This is all new to them. This is the newest. This is the best they've been in like 40 years. So honestly, for them just to be able to take that winning tradition and carry it through adversity from one season to the next, I'll believe it when I see it. Because honestly, everything that we've seen for, again, the last 40 years shows me that's a flash in the pan. They got a little lucky. We'll see if they can sustain it. My guess is that they're going to take a pretty big regression.
Yeah. Tim, Chase Green says here in the chat, I want to see 30 rushing attempts against the Lions week 1 and just run them over. We need a hot start. Do all the NFC wildcard teams in the mix. I mean, you look at Josh Jacobs is great here too, man. The third highest graded running back at a 92.3 going up against what could be, I mean, that could be a very banged up defensive line if they're not healthy week 1, man. I could see us running a rock on them. As you get to the linebacker position, Tim, you got Campbell with a 78.7 and then Anzalone at that 66.9. We know Anzalone is somewhat of a hybrid backer, probably play outside backer and kind of that rush backer from time to time in their base as well. But what do you think about that, man?
I'm loving it. And just at a glance, I'm looking forward to seeing Matt Golden light up Terry and Arnold. That's going to be fun. That'll be fun to watch. That'll be must-see TV. But Aiden Hutchinson is good to go. So the kid's 24. He'll be 25 this year. He was cleared a couple of weeks ago, I believe. So I don't know, what that means for how they're going to, insert him into the lineup right away, or if they're going to handle him with kid gloves or whatever. But I think he's going to be playing, full go for camp. Ron Sandoval confirming. So we'll have to see. But then again, that's one man, right? They got some holes there up front. So I agree with the sentiment of pounding the rock. I mean, Josh Jacobs is that dude for a reason, and he's only going to continue to be that dude if we're, running this offense kind of vicariously through him. And, once you get that guy's wheels turning, man, it's going to open things up in that passing game. And like you said, man, they're kind of thin, looks a little thin in the middle there. And then corner doesn't look super intimidating to me. So I'm looking for a 30 burger on them week 1, 30 or better. Let's go.
I'm trying to see if we could get the full diagnosis of that injury.
Fibula and tibia. He broke his whole deal.
So did it tear any ligaments at all?
I don't see. I'm looking at this article is from May 22nd is the most recent one I could find here. This NFL.com.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too, a tibia and a fibula. So maybe there were no ligament damages, and if that's the case and it was clean breaks, there's nothing clean about the way it looked on the replay.
Oh goodness,
dude, I still
I can see it.
Hey man, I just ate dinner, man. Dang,
his hand decided to hide.
Bro, it was so bad. And here's the thing, I'm kind of blood, cuts, lacerations, gunshot, all that doesn't bother me at all. When I see a bone snap, it bothers me. Mandy's like, oh, watch it again.
Mandy's savage.
She is there with that stuff. So
I love it.
Then again, if one of the dogs sneezes and there's some snot on the rug, she goes gagging through the house. I'm like, how does this make sense? What are we even doing here? So, H.E. Soder says Packers need to run the ball and stay out of 3rd and long. Boy, do that every week.
Yes,
do that and protect the football, man.
Especially against a team like Detroit, right? We talked about those matchups last year. We kept putting ourselves behind the 8 ball, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7. You're making it difficult on yourself to try and convert there. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. So, again, their linebacking position, kind of matched up with our offensive line. And then you look at, of course, Tucker Kraft, the 23rd highest graded tight end. And we talked about some advanced metrics, things like that suggested Tucker Kraft is top 10, possibly top 5 right now. So take the PFF grade for what you will there, 67.8. You like the way he matches up against the Lions, me personally. Then when you look at their DBs against our wide receivers here, again, this is what it's showing in the starting lineup. Dobbs at the X with a 69.7 grade. Jaden Reed in the slot with a 71.7. And then you got Matthew Golden is showing no score, obviously being a rookie. You're going to be able to mix in some other players like Dontavion Wicks. Who knows what Savion Williams could potentially be this year as well. So when you look at their DBs and how they would match up, DJ Reed, Jacob, they picked him up in free agents. Go ahead. You're good, man. I've seen you cut your camera off. My bad. Reed, they signed he had a 70.7 PFF grade last year, 30th highest graded corner in the league. Obviously, pretty solid season from him. In the slot, they've got Robertson at a 64.7. And on the opposite side, look at Arnold. Terrion Arnold, rookie last year, 50.8. He was the 109th graded cornerback out of 115. And my man got grabbed last year. if they had this matchup correct, and listen, it can vary from week to week and what the coaches are seeing on the game tape and how they want to attack an offense and vice versa with the offense attacking the defense. If you had Matthew Golden matched up on Terry and Arnold, that'd be a fun matchup right there. And here's the other thing. You move Reed around and do some cheap motion outside and get him lined up outside and try to exploit Arnold when they're not in man coverage. That'd be a lot of fun as well. I like the way, Jacob, our passing game matches up against their DBs here. Now, keep in mind, they have, I think, one of, if not, the highest graded safety in the league with Kirby Joseph back there, 90.4. My boy, Brian Branch, I was so pissed off that I got roasted for saying we needed to draft Brian Branch because he's too small, he's too this, he's too that. 83.7. That's arguably the best safety tandem in the entire league, even as good as the Packers safety tandem is. But when you look at these DBs, cornerback matchup versus wide receivers, I like our chance, right? Now, the safety factor definitely tilts it a little bit back in their favor. What do you think about it, Jacob?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, I would take any of our wide receivers, to be honest, almost up to like wide receiver 7 to be able to completely I wouldn't say completely, but definitely be able to burn these guys consistently. The safety room is a little bit of a different story. Kirby Joseph's a dog, and Brian Branch is another one of those guys. I believe, Clay, isn't he kind of in that same mold where people are like, he doesn't have the numbers, he doesn't have the measurables, kind of like a Kyle Hamilton. It was back-to-back years. He went from a Brian Branch to a Kyle Hamilton to guys just like, they're just good football players. It just is what it is. Sometimes they're just not going to hit the measurables that are the RAS, certain metrics that you want them to. The bottom line is that they're just really good football players. And unfortunately, Detroit that's got to be the best safety room in the league, right? I mean, it's definitely the best safety room in the NFC North for sure. But, I think there is
definitely the dirtiest safety room.
Definitely. I was going to say they're not afraid to get a little definitely biting kneecaps there. Cornerback room, I think we got that easily. I think we even overtake the linebacker room. That safety room is pretty tough, though.
Yeah. And when you talk about Brian Branch, the other thing is he'll play the slot as well. He'll climb down there and play the nickel from time to time too. The big thing that stood out about Brian Branch coming out of college was he had let me try to think of how I can word it, the most successful tackle percentage in the PFF era. And I can't remember what year that started, but it goes pretty far back, damn near 20 years, I believe it was. It was well over 10 years. I remember that. When you get stuff like that shows up, like, wow, his missed tackle percentage is the best in the history of college football up to this point, according to PFF, you got to kind of take a flyer on that. You got to look at that and go, okay, that's something historic, So Brian Branch, definitely another X factor there. Kirby Joseph, though, I hate Kirby Joseph. I can't stand that dude as a player. But, boy, if he was playing for the Packers, I'd probably have his jersey. You know what I mean? It's just one of those deals. So when people say he plays dirty, he does. I played dirty in sports too, so I kind of appreciate that. When it happens to your team, you hate it. That's just the way I see it. So 2-0 for this says Tucker Kraft hates Kirby. I have a feeling he will go after him hard. I loved it last year when he tried to take his legs out, upended him, and look back like, did I get him? Like I hurt him. Tucker does the Shawn Michaels flip up to his feet. Kirby quickly turned his head around like he didn't see it and walked off. That's gonna be a fun rivalry for years to come as well. So anything else you guys want to hit here other than Jordan Love, 75.8, 20th highest graded quarterback in the league. Now, you guys know with QBR, he was 10th in the league in QBR. When you looked at some of the EPA stuff, he was much closer to 10 than he was 20. So I kind of put Jordan Love based off his performance last year, even though he was battling 3 injuries. I think he was somewhere around the 13 or 14 mark in the league. Me personally is where I would put him. So with a healthy Jordan Love, I think you're going to get a top 10 quarterback. I really believe that. But anything else you guys want to add to that conversation? We kind of hit on Josh Jacobs there too with a 92.3.
I just maybe wrapping up Detroit's back end there in the secondary. You mentioned, oh my gosh, can you scroll back up here? I'm drawing a blank.
Joseph
that dirty bastard. Yeah, Branch.
Branch is a little dirty too. You're right, man.
Yep. Stepping into the slot a little bit, right? And I kind of like that. I feel like you're going to entice them to want to bring him down there by running the football. And maybe if we can get them out of their nickel, we know Detroit will man up. They're not afraid of it. They're not afraid to go single high look either. And with that in mind, I think you got to challenge them. I'm like you, Clayton. I'm a big believer in like, oh, you get your best, we'll bring our best, and we're going to take it to each other. We're not going to let anybody live on reputation or last season's numbers or PFF grades. I say challenge that secondary. I feel like in the short to mid range passing game, we have a chance to get things going because, like we said, the corner play is not that intimidating. I think we have good receivers and tight ends, and they look a little soft up front here right now and in the middle. So maybe you can get them to creep up, and then when you get that opportunity, man, let that shot play fly. We know Jordan loves to let it fly. So I think we've got a really good chance to go out here week one and set the tone in 2025 and finally get the Detroit Lions off our back and just beat their asses week one. That's where
And it's so hard for defenses to have back-to-back great seasons. It happens every year, but there's just 2 or 3 that typically do. And the reason being is you got all this tape on that defense now, right? Well, on top of that, they lose Aaron Glenn, so they lose their leader on defense and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn. And if I remember correctly, he took a coach or 2 with him as well. So that coaching staff is depleted. We're going to come away this year with one or two, things that we're going to be thinking. Dan Campbell's the real deal, or Dan Campbell ain't anything. Because if he puts this back together and gets him back to 12, 13, 14 wins without the offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator, Dan Campbell was the magic. It wasn't those guys. But if they fall flat on their face and they come out and win 6 or 7 games, which nobody is talking about that being a possibility, if that happens, maybe Dan Campbell getting exposed here. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out as well. H.E. Soder says, too many times in 2024, the early game play calling sequence did not get Love into a rhythm, and then they press. See, I disagree with that comment. Not completely, because every game's a little different. What we seen on Chalk Talk all year long was Jordan not taking the check down. Like it was, and it wasn't even that he wasn't taking the check down. I get tired of saying this because I've said it. I feel like I've said it 1,000 times, but it's all over the tape. It's not that he didn't get to the check. He didn't get to the check down on time. Like you have got to get to that. You got to know, like if you come out and you read a split safety look, you're reading rotation. Let's just say it's strictly a passing play, and you've already decided we're going to throw the ball here. You got to read the rotation early, and you got to know there's my number one. If it ain't there, get to the check down as quick as possible. What you seen Jordan doing was going 1, 3, back to 1. Now let's go to the check down, and the defense is already all over the check down. That's what I've seen on the tape.
We saw that when we were talking about Jaden Reed with the supposed drops, right?
Right.
Great example of getting to the read a little late, balls behind, everything's out of rhythm.
And again, here's the other thing too, to defend Soder here. We don't know how Matt's coaching Jordan up either. I know this. We didn't hear Matt say one time at the pressers, not that he would throw his quarterback under the bus, but we didn't hear him say one time, Jordan's got to do a better job of reading the defense and getting to the check down, right? He always said Jordan's just trying to make a play. So maybe in the background, he is saying to Jordan, hey, look, be aggressive. Let's drive this ball down the field. That could be happening too, right? But that's just my interpretation of the majority of the tape. Not always, but the majority of the tape. I think Matt, when you look at the separation, he can scheme some dudes open, man. You look at Tucker Kraft's average separation, it ain't because Tucker Kraft's shaking people out of their boots. He's running butt naked through the trailer park, and that's Matt LaFleur. That ain't Tucker Kraft there, Now, Tucker Kraft bulldozing people, snowplowing people, that's Tucker Kraft. So appreciate that comment there, though, Soder. Let's go on to 12 personnel real quick. And actually, did I go to 12 yet? We're still on nickel, right? Let me hop down to our offense just real quick, just to look at the matchup. When they go to their base 4-3, they're going to have Anzalone, Campbell, and then they bring in Barnes. Is that Chris Barnes, or is that a different Barnes? That's got to be a different Barnes, right? Or did they sign Chris
Barnes? Was on the Eagles, right?
Let's see here. Let's
Didn't
go.
Barnes go to the Eagles?
He was there last year for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Barnes.
He was in San Francisco for a while too, wasn't he?
That's Derek Barnes.
That's Derek Barnes. Okay.
Yeah. So that's Derek Barnes there. So anyway, he's going to come in and play Sam Backer. Now, it looked like he didn't have a significant amount of snaps last year, 71.8. And then, of course, you got Musgrave coming in, had an incomplete grade as well, but did have a grade of 47.1. So you this is a perfect example of when you look at that just strictly from the grades, you would like to say, let's stay in 11 personnel over 12. And this kind of goes back to the conversation we've had all offseason. We want to get more healthy Luke Musgrave out there and get a little more 12. All the explosives that we showed on Chalk Talk this year were all in 11 personnel. I don't think that's a coincidence. Doesn't mean you can't go out and ball out in 12, but that's another example of going into the season. You're trying to decide, all right, do we stick with what worked, or do we try to change it up knowing the defense is going to key in on what worked and try to stop us? There is your quick 12 matchup there. Anything else you guys?
Real quick, the chat wanted to correct us here. Barnes did not go to the Eagles.
Oren
Niners. Oren Burks went to the San Francisco, and also
where did Chris Barnes end up then?
The Cardinals.
Yeah,
there we go.
That's what we just said. We just looked it up. It was Derek Barnes that's there. That's who's with the Lions. But yeah, Chris Barnes is still with Arizona, and he and Jordan Love do a camp together every year. They're still really good friends. Yep. He was on the team Jordan's rookie year, maybe his second year too. So, but yeah, it was Oren Burks was the one that put the hat on the football, wasn't it?
Sure was.
Leaving with the crown of the helmet.
Somebody was blocked though, but we will not name names.
Exactly. Anything else? Anything else you guys want to add to our offense versus Detroit's defense? Any parting thoughts before we move on to our defense versus Detroit's offense?
30 burger week 1. Let's go.
I'll play the Eagles on the damn moon. That was my favorite Tim comment last year. Jacob, you got anything else on it?
No, but Bates is saying, hey, I believe Chris may be a free agent at the moment. Just wink, wink, nod, nod. Hey.
In case you like to chew your backer twice, right? Porter Doug says Savion in the second tight end position. Hey,
hello.
I'll tell you, I'll say this, man. One thing that Matt LaFleur likes to do, and they did it a little bit last year, even with Christian Watson out, he likes to line up a wide receiver in that wing position, right? Which is essentially like in between. If you could see my cursor here, they would line up right here. Imagine this tight end right here in this spot, right? He likes to go 11 personnel, and he would put Christian Watson right there and help with the run blocking and stuff and work them out of the backfield type thing. They would also do like a play fake with a sift over, and he would leak out, that type of stuff. Coach Lynn saying Savion in the H position. That's essentially what we're talking about here, right? Yeah. It's going to be interesting. All that's going to be determined in camp on how much of the playbook Savion can pick up and whether he looks like he can handle it his rookie year or not. If so, you're probably going to see some Savion in the backfield. You are. I'll tell you what I would like to see too. I think it'd be fun. Imagine coming out in 11 personnel. All right, let me go back up to 11 here. So imagine you come out in 11 personnel with the Packers offense. All right. And let's say that, instead of Dobbs, you've got Savion Williams, but you come out in an empty set. Imagine Josh Jacobs out here far left, and you're in an empty 11 personnel, right? And then all of a sudden you shift Reed and Savion Williams into the backfield. So what you do is if they're in man coverage, that's going to be identified. When you walk that T out, which is the running back, when you walk him out wide and a linebacker follows him over, we know it's man coverage. And then you shift those two receivers to the backfield. They've got to make a decision now. Yep. Their linebacker is now on the boundary. So that means they're going to be bringing a cornerback in to play in the box. And I would just love to see Savion Williams get a crack at Brian Branch head on. Because Savion, if it translates from college to the pros, that dude will run through a MFer's face. No two ways about it.
Might explain the shoulder issue, right? coming out of college.
Exactly. So it's all going to come down to can he pick up that playbook in time, right? That's what it's going to come down to. So, all right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2, where we're going to break down the Packers defense against the Lions offense, according to PFF. We appreciate y'all.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2. Let's get into it, boys. Let's go to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll start with 11 versus nickel once again here. And I'll try to get it zoomed out enough where we can catch most of it. Jacob's out.
He lost the beard. Did he not pay the internet bill again?
Nah, you know how it is, man. He probably had the feds knocking at the door. You know how this goes. All right, so let's now move into – did I screw this up? Let me think here for a second. 12 base. We got that. I may have got the wrong screen grab. That's going to suck if that's the case. There's the nickel defense. We're good, right? Yeah. That's the nickel against their 11. All right. Let's look at it here, Tim. So let's start with the offensive line. Same thing. Now, this is where it gets interesting because Detroit is stacked, according to PFF. From left to right, you've got Decker at left tackle, 77.2. Mahogany, 91.5, but an incomplete grade. Glasgow at a 57.2. Keep in mind their rookie. I'm trying to think of his name. I want to say he went to Georgia. You guys help me out. I'm drawing a blank in the chat.
Ratledge?
Tate Ratledge. I think you're right, Tim. It sounds like he's probably going to be the guy to start at center for the Detroit Lions. Okay. So anyway, right now they got Glasgow at 57.2. Regardless, even if it is Tate Ratledge, you got to prove your worth as a rookie, right? I think we all agree Tate Ratledge is not going to step in there and perform at the level of Ragnow, who just recently retired, right, because of injuries. So they're showing Ratledge at right guard. I think it'll probably be Ratledge's position to lose at center based on the fact that he's taken all the first team reps to the best of my knowledge throughout their mini camp. And then of course you got Penei Sewell there at right tackle with an 89.6. So Tim, this offensive line, they look stout. There's no two ways about it. Without Ragnow, the weakness seems to be in the middle there now, right? And Mahogany, of course, having somewhat of an incomplete grade from last year. So when you look at our defensive front in our nickel 4-2-5, Rashawn Gary. Now, listen, they got Rashawn Gary on the right side. They don't have LVN in the starting lineup. That's crazy. He will be the starting edge. There's no doubt in my mind that that'll be the case. So you got Gary at a 73.0. Then you got Kenny Clark at that 60. Now, we now know battled a toe injury since week 1, had another foot injury on top of that as well. Devontae Wyatt took a little bit of a step forward last year.
Yep.
He's a good pass rusher, right? There's no doubt about that. It's just that run defense, can he sure that up playing 3 tech? So they still got Kenny playing that 2-eye, 1 tech look in the nickel 4-2-5. And of course, Devontae Wyatt will be more of your 3 tech to 4 tech type thing. So they got Enigbari here at a 56.8. It will be LVN. And again, LVN's PFF grade wasn't great, if I remember correctly. But when you talk about what he did in the second half of the season, improving those numbers where he ended up finishing over an 11% pressure rate, according to NFL Pro, I think we're going to be just fine. I think LVN's going to have a breakout year. And when I say breakout year, that doesn't mean he's going to go out and have 15 sacks. I think he's going to be upwards about 7 or 8 sacks, maybe 9 sacks. You're going to see that pressure rate stabilize somewhere between 10 and 13%. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets all the way up to 13% pressure. If you get Rashawn Gary back to the 15% mark, he had peaked at 19%. I think that your defensive front's going to come out and play a lot better. So their strength used to be their offensive line. It's still a strength, Tim, but you cannot overlook the fact that Mahogany's had limited snaps. And, of course, our boy, I've already forgot his name, their starting center that's gone, Ragnow, is obviously not in the lineup now. So there's some question marks in the middle of that offensive line now, Tim.
There is, and that's why we're going to get to find out real quick what kind of step Devontae Wyatt's taken in the run game. Bright and early week 1, I think, right? It's going to be, obviously Jahmyr Gibbs is proving to be kind of a premier tier back in the NFL. We can't deny that, right? But he's going to be running through a line that's got a couple of holes. Maybe holes isn't the word, but they're certainly on the ropes right now with an abrupt retirement. And then, you've got a rookie either at center or right guard. Of course, Penei Sewell is still a dog, and they got Mr. Laporta there at tight end who can block when he needs to. But I think it's going to be a testament to how well Half has got this defense ready for week 1. And I believe you're right. I think LVN's going to win that starting spot. I don't think JJ Enigbari is going to be the starter. And I think we're going to see a heavy dose of that bright and early. So, but I think the D line is Kenny Clark and Devontae Wyatt. These guys, this is going to be a pretty good test, nice and early, to see what we get from our front. And we know Detroit will run the ball, but they'll mix it up with check down Charlie there at quarterback and do a couple of passes and things like that too. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys in the middle. Edge doesn't concern me as much as the middle of our D line does. Yeah. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
no, it does. It does completely. Listen, if Kenny Clark just returns somewhat back to his old form, and again, I'm not expecting Kenny to go out and be one of the top defensive tackles in the league. that's the tough part about his contract. He's paid like one of the best,
Yep.
and he just simply hasn't been the best since Mike Pettin left. Really, was when he was grading out somewhat elite. But with that being said, I do expect him to jump back up probably into the 70s. And also, they'll probably take a little bit of that touch spy away because teams are going to look at that when trying to play the Packers. I think they'll get away from that a little bit, get a little more aggressive up front in terms of the front four and not just having three guys rush with one kind of playing patty cake, watching the scramble and rush lanes. I think they'll improve, Tim. I do. I think Kenny Clark will take a step forward. Now, he's old, man. He's only 30, but man, he's been in the league for 10 years. Coming off an injury like that, and I know it sounds silly. Oh, he hurt his toe. Boo hoo. No, man, that stuff that could happen again. It could,
Yep.
So
it probably will. I mean, how many times do you get your foot stepped on playing in the trenches? Like just in an average game, anything could make it, flare up again.
Yeah. So I feel pretty good about that matchup. I don't feel, like I said, if Ragnow was still there, I would be like, boys, it's gonna be a tough year. But the fact that middle is kind of softened up a little bit. And Ed Madden, thank you for the info, buddy. He says Mahogany at the other guard is a second-year player with, I think, 180 snaps last year. 180 is pretty significant.
Yeah.
Pretty darn significant to have a 94.5. So maybe he's solid there. Maybe it's just that interior right side that we might have a shot at.
Do you think they're going to try and run like maybe off tackle kind of stuff or, outside zone stuff to kind of compensate for that? Or do you think they're going to kind of just play straight up?
I don't know, man. It's just so varied from year to year,
Yeah.
I think that when you go into a season, if you're talking specifically about Detroit's offense, right?
I'm saying it in this matchup against us, week 1. Just looking at what we're looking at now, based on what we just discussed.
Having a new OC, I would imagine they're not going to try to revamp anything. They'll probably try to refine what they did last year because if it ain't broke, don't fix it type thing until you have to fix it. Mm-hmm. I would think we're going to see something similar to what we've seen last year. I'm just going to tell you, man, if it hadn't been piss pouring the rain at Lambeau, I think that's a whole different ballgame. It kind of, to me, I remember Detroit coming out a little bit flat on offense. And by the time that we turned the ball over a couple times, it was like they were like, hey, you know what? Let's just let them lose it. Let's just play it conservative and let them lose it. That's how I remember that game, but I could be wrong.
I remember that game starting with a interception from very early on, and us getting three points out of it, and that kind of set us back. And like you said, the elements did play a significant factor in that game for sure.
Yeah. Let's see here. Next comment. Greg Rice says, what do you think about trading Enigbare? I thought about it for a second, Greg, and I'm like, it does feel like we're a little bit deep at edge. And don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we got a room full of superstars, but you got a bunch of guys at that second tier that's like around the same skill level. Now, Brenton Cox Jr., I think, is criminally underused, personally.
Yes.
I want to see him until other players prove otherwise. I want to see him get the majority of those reps outside of Rashawn Gary and LVN. I want to see him kind of be that next guy to step in and eat up those snaps. And he started to last year, if I remember correctly. His play time was, I want to say it ended up being higher than Enigbare by the end of the season. And he led the team in pressures, or pressure percentage, I should say, according to NFL Pro. So, I want to see him get more reps. So when you think about that, and then I like what Ed Madden says here about what Greg Rice asked, I want to see Sorrell in season before I trade in Enigbare. To me, that's the answer, right? Yep. And if we were to pull up the depth chart real quick, let's just take a quick gander here. If we pull this up, Tim, think about how many edges you may keep, right? Rashawn Gary, Barron Sorrell, they're going to make the roster. Lucas Van Ness, and then you got Kingsley Enigbare, Colin Oliver, Brenton Cox Jr. That's 6. And I can't remember how many we broke camp with last year. But of those 6, based off those 6, do you feel comfortable trading Enigbare, or do you think it's something that now you need to hold on to him? Because, even at that position, injuries happen every year,
It does, and you can never have too much depth, right? But you have to build a roster, and you've got to be balanced. I agree with Ed Madden's comment. I feel more comfortable answering this question after maybe a preseason game or two, maybe getting through camp and seeing what we're really getting with Barron Sorrell, because I'm so through the moon excited about him. And I also wonder when we talk about trading in Enigbari, what are we really putting on him as far as a trade value? Are we going to get a sixth or something? Or
I don't see a team giving a sixth.
yeah,
I mean,
so
I mean, you look at his PFF grade, 56.8, right?
right,
His sack total wasn't high. His pressure percentage wasn't high. I want to say it was under 10%. I can't imagine there's much trade value there, Tim. But let's pretend there was. Would you be willing to? We broke camp with 6 last year.
yeah,
What it comes down to is if you're willing to trade somebody like Kingsley Enigbare, then you're looking to carry Deslin Alexander, Aaron Mosby, one of those two players as your sixth edge defender. I would rather have Kingsley Enigbare than Aaron Mosby,
I agree.
simply because Aaron Mosby can be protected on the practice squad. I don't think anybody's lining up to sign him off the practice squad. Kingsley Enigbare will probably get signed pretty quick. Draft compensation, just go snatch him up type thing. So when you run into an injury, it's nice to have Aaron Mosby kind of, your ace in the hole there. So my answer to that question, Ed, since we kind of broke it down, would be I would like to keep Enigbare because, and again, I don't think any team's willing to give anything other than maybe a conditional 7th round pick, but I could be wrong. So that's kind of how I see that. Anything else you want to add to that question, Tim?
No, I think I agree. I would keep JJ.
Got it. All right. So there you go. Moving along here. So we covered defensive line and offensive line. Sam Laporta was the 10th highest graded tight end last year at a 73.6. All right. And then you look at matching up Sam Laporta with our linebackers is essentially what you're looking at, right? So Quay Walker finished the year with a 57.2. PFF were not kind to him at all. Edgerrin Cooper, however, the 5th highest graded linebacker in the entire league at 85.7. You love to see that. So when you look at that matchup, this is the perfect conversation to go hand in hand with what we talked about a couple of nights ago when someone had asked me about which one, it was a motion question. Like when they motion the tight end over, who would you have, playing mock? Do they follow? It depends on the play call. When you face someone like the Detroit Lions and you got Sam Laporta, what I would personally like to see happen is you want Cooper shadowing him. And what that means is whether you're in zone or man, wherever he lines up, you follow him. And Quay's been in the defense long enough to know that he can adjust. And what I mean by that, if you both got two hook curls, and let's say the formation is lined up the way it is right here, where you're strong right with Laporta on the right side, when he motions over to the left, first of all, to start the play, you would have Cooper playing mock and Quay playing will. And when he motions over, even if you're in a zone defense and you got 2 hook curls in the middle, let Cooper follow him over to the left. That way, at the start of the play, if you do end up playing something with match principles, whether it's a cover 3 match, cover 2 match, or you want to run a Tampa 2 variation, and if Sam Laporta in this case motions over, he would be the number 3. You carry the 3 down the seam in a Tampa 2 call most of the time. If that's the approach, you've always got Cooper in a place where he's kind of locked up on Sam Laporta, even though you're not playing man coverage the majority of the time. That's how I would approach that. But then again, it depends on what kind of routes they run too. If they run a lot of vertical routes with Sam Laporta and not a lot of outs and things like that, then I'm okay with Quay covering the seam on Laporta. That's what he does well. Quay can flip his hips and cover the seam really well. Now, if it's something that they like to attack underneath with whip routes and stuff like that, I want Cooper on them. So it seems like 80% of the answers to the questions we got around how they'll use Sam Laporta, the answer is Cooper can handle that. Let's put Cooper on him type thing. So that's how I would approach that. Now, you got to keep in mind, man, they got Gibbs back there in the backfield. He was the 6th highest graded running back last year at a 90.1. So they're just a versatile offense, man. They can run the rock. They can throw to the running backs. They can pass the ball down the field, as we're going to get into the wide receivers and cornerback play as well. But in terms of the matchup, with their offensive line against our defensive line, with Ragnow gone, I think it's closer to a push, but I would still give the edge to the Lions. And then when you look at the tight end and the running back versus our linebackers, it's pretty damn close to a push, but I'd probably give the edge to the Lions in that regard here early. Now, if Quay all of a sudden jumps up and plays like he did that 2 or 3 game stretch before he hurt his ankle, and he goes out there and grades out in the 70s or the 80s, and he's just playing lights out football, that can flip real easy. So let's hope we're getting the best version of Quay. Anything you want to – you're muted, Tim.
Speaking to your point about the versatility of Detroit's offense, like we cannot take that for granted because they can beat you 3 or 4 or 5 different ways if they want to, right? And so to your point, we need to be that on defense, and we need to have that versatility built into our scheme and our plan. And like you said, if that means being true to form in the modern NFL, which is, stack backers are interchangeable, or at least they should be, and they should have the skill sets to be able to do that. I think I love that approach, Clay. That's how I would attack it too. I'm looking forward to seeing Coop and Quay out there together on a consistent basis. I really am. I think they're going to be really good complements to each other out there, especially against a team like Detroit.
Yep. And then you got Jared Goff grading out a 78.8. He was the 16th highest graded quarterback in the league last year. Now, listen, early in the season, MVP candidate. Dude was playing lights out, right? So will Goff be the same quarterback without, our boy
Right.
You ready to go? What'd you say?
I thought you meant without his center. That's another thing too. Ragnow hanging it up.
Yeah. I was talking about Ben Johnson, Mr.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Ready to Go.
That's a perfect example. Like, if you were to look at the offense and say, okay, from an operational standpoint, what are the most important aspects of an offense? You would say quarterback, center, right? Those are the 2 guys that touch the ball every single play, and your offensive coordinator. 2 of those 3 pieces are missing for the Lions this year.
Yeah.
You can't underestimate that, and it's kind of like the whole Dan Campbell conversation. He can really prove his worth and the amount of success he does or does not have without his 2 coordinators. If Jared Goff goes up there, them completely flipping one of the best centers in the league to some no-name or a rookie in Ratledge, and he goes out and plays just as good as he ever has, my goodness. But a big reason for that is obviously these wide receivers. And from left to right here, they got Williams, a 74.5. Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot at an 89.3. And then, of course, Patrick on the right side there at a 66.8. Now, when you look at our DB matchup, take this with a grain of salt, okay? And I'll tell you why. Nixon, 64.1. Hobbs, 61.4. Bullard, a 54.2, but keep in mind the majority of that grade, as they've got him listed here as the 80th highest graded safety, the majority of that grade has come from the safety position. Now, when we broke down the individual grades of when he played slot corner and when he played safety, he played significantly better in the slot, but it's not like he matches up to an 89.3. So you would give the advantage to St. Brown, but thank God we don't play man coverage like most fans want us to play, because we'd be getting our butts cooked.
Oh, yeah.
So when you look at that grade, yeah, Bullard's lining up over across from him, at least if this is the projected lineup. And we'll talk about what we think it's actually going to be here in a second. But if you got Bullard lining up across from him, listen, he's covering a hook curl or a curl flat. Or he may carry the 2 down the field and pass it off to the deep corner on the outside, or the safety, depending on what the call is, whether you're playing the strong or the weak side rotation. Bullard, it's not like Bullard's going to be covering St. Brown man on man. There'll be man coverage calls, don't get me wrong. But I personally think, Tim, what this is actually going to be is Carrington Valentine, who is the highest graded returning corner for the Packers, will be over there in the Hobbs spot. I think Hobbs will be in the slot, and Keyshawn will be outside as well. So that number would actually get a little bit better. You would have Hobbs kick into the slot where he played some of his best football throughout his young career. You're getting a better version of Hobbs in the slot, and you're getting Carrington Valentine. You're basically flipping a 54.2 to like a darn near a 70 grade. I think his coverage grade was like a 71.3 or something last year. He had the best passer rating when targeted of all the cornerbacks on our entire team in the 2024 season as well. So I think it's going to be significantly better than this would suggest. The only thing that worries me, Tim, I kind of feel like this hits me every year, especially around training camp time. Bullard's a 2nd-round pick. I don't think they're going to start him over Evan Williams. Right, Evan Williams, a 72.3, went out there and balled out, made the all-rookie team for, I think, PFF's all-rookie team, if I remember correctly. And I don't think he's going to start over Evan Williams. It worries me, though, that they keep Carrington on the bench because that's a 7th-round pick, and they got to march their precious 2nd-round pick out there on the field because they spent a 2nd-round pick on him. I hate that mindset. Hopefully they don't approach it that way. But then again, if they do, Tim, and Bullard goes out there and balls out like a 2nd-round pick, we're not going to complain.
Well, that's what I'm saying is I wonder if, because I would agree with you. Let me start by saying this. I agree. Hobbs goes to the slot. You put CV on the boundary with Keyshawn. That would be my preferred look here. However, if Javon Bullard, shows up, throughout the preseason and throughout camp and proves that his coverage skills have gotten better, or maybe there's an emphasis on, hey, we know you can lower the boom. We know you're great on the back end. You're great against the run fits. We can send you on that nickel blitz. But hey, man, we need your hands and your feet and your head. Like, let's go, man. You can't get torched in the slot in coverage. And if he takes that step, that's a great problem to have, because now we've really got the ability to kind of move guys around and plug and play. And like you said, injuries happen. So, you know, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know how this season's going to play out. So I think it would be an awesome scenario if Bullard took a step and maybe that coverage grade improves a little bit. Because I agree with you. It would be a crime to start him at the safety position over Evan Williams after what we saw last year. That's just my opinion right now.
Yeah.
I believe in Evan Williams, and I'm with you, Clay. I don't like this whole, well, he was a second round pick, or man, I don't care where the hell you were drafted once you're in the NFL, man. You know, this is where we're at now. We're trying to win a Lombardi this year. So we like Jacob always talks about best 5 on the line. We need our best 11 out there on defense, no matter what. I don't care what round you were drafted in.
Remove the picks.
Yep.
Could care less. Ed Madden says if we can get pressure up the middle on Goff, should lead to turnovers. If you get Goff off his spot, that's how you beat Goff. He's not a dude that's going to move around in the pocket, scramble to his left, throw across his body. If you get him off his spot, it's game on. Now, you can do that a number of different ways. You know, we ran a lot of stunts last year, albeit sometimes with a touch spots. You're actually only rushing 3 as opposed to 4. But the scrapes and stuff with Coop, you can do that and create pressure up the middle. But the problem with that is for every guy you bring extra, you're -1 hat count on the backside. And we just talked about Coop kind of neutralizing Sam Laporta and taking that aspect of their game away. If you do that and you start firing Edger and Cooper on blitzes up the middle off these scrapes, twists, stunts, torch blitzes, things like that, now you're going to be -1 on the backside. Sam Laporta probably start to eat across the middle. So you got to be careful with that stuff. And he didn't specifically say that. Ed didn't. I'm just kind of thinking out loud, how can you create pressure in the middle? Devontae White and Kenny Clark pinning their ears back and getting after them. You ain't got to worry about Goff scrambling too much, right?
So because what he doesn't have in scrambling ability, he makes up for in the ability to get rid of that football immediately if that pressure is coming. And if you're opened on the back end, like you said, Clay, you're going to expose yourself. So we got to win in the trenches, I think, up the middle.
Yeah, I agree. Coach Lynn says, what if Bullard can play on the boundary? Coach,
I believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, you guys remember leading up through the draft process, we were really high on Bullard. Like, I loved Bullard. Jacob turned us on to him, like, hey, y'all need to check out this kid from Georgia. We went and watched the tape and was like, holy cow, he's a real deal. We had him as our number 2 safety in the league, or in the draft. I'm sorry, number 2 safety in the draft. And when you turn on the tape, he could play the slot and he could play safety. And the thing that stood out to me, I even went on the record and said, his build, that's the one that Hafley was talking about when he said he's thick. I remember specifically saying, he reminds me of Nick Collins. Like when I watched Nick Collins, his rookie year out of Bethune-Cookman, I was there for his very first game. I was at Lambeau. He was the fastest guy on the field. There was no hesitation. He could read, recognize, diagnose, and attack the football. It was like, that kid gets it. When I watched Javon Bullard at Georgia and watched his tape, I'm like, this kind of reminds me of Nick, right?
Yep.
And then Sunday started, and I went, he don't remind me of Nick. It's funny how that changes when you come to the league. Now, he's got the athletic traits, I think, Coach, and that's probably what you're getting at. It's like, hey, he's fast enough, right? But just based off what I've seen so far, his strength to me is run defense and playing everything underneath. I kind of feel like if we got him out there on the outside, I say that, but then when you got an extra defender helping you out there, i.e. the out of bounds line, sometimes that fits players better. So you could be right, Coach. I just wouldn't put any money on it based off what I seen last year. Greg Rice says, I thought Bull struggled in coverage. That's how I seen it too, Greg, but I'm just a dumb redneck. Like that's based off the tape that I seen, is I felt like, okay, not a great coverage guy. He's good enough in the slot to cover, but his superpower is playing everything underneath, attacking the screen passes, the smoke screens, the swing passes, things like that. He's very aggressive underneath. If you could take the way he attacks the football and just embed that in Quay Walker, oh my God, you got a stud linebacker. Like there's no hesitation with Bull, but he would get cooked, especially on some of those over routes, right? And there was some matchy type calls from time to time. Not a whole lot, not as much as Joe Barry's defense, but there was a little match. So
I think it's important to remember too, like even if we were going to entertain that thought of putting him on the outside, he would have to outplay Nate Hobbs, CV, and Keyshawn to even jump into that level of rotation, right? Or at least 2 out of those 3 guys, right? Because you'd probably move Hobbs to the slot then if you're going to put, Bullard on a boundary. But are you going to put Bullard on the outside over, Keyshawn or Valentine? That would be the question.
I'm really high on Valentine. And
Yeah,
again, understand, guys, this could go either way for me too, because rookie year, I went cheeks. Last year, I was like, boy, he made me eat my words. This dude, I thought he balled out. I thought he played really, really good football. Really fundamentally sound. He could play. He could hang off the coverage and attack underneath, drift back. He could play a little bit of man, but man in zone. You talking about being able to play his zone while reading the quarterback's eyes and recognizing the passing concept that was going on around him, the route combinations that were attacking space around him. Both of his interceptions came from him breaking off of his concept and making a play on the ball, and not in a negative way. Sometimes you see that and go, boy, he completely left his zone uncovered. That could have been bad. No, he knew the quarterback's already moved on from that check. Let me find work, right? There's nothing more frustrating than watching a defensive player, and it's easy for me to say sitting on my couch eating Cheetos, but when you see a defensive player that just kind of hangs out in space, they're not really covering anybody.
Covering grass. Yeah.
And, like Coach Haddad said on the show, we need to get him back on the show soon. He said, we always teach our players, blades of grass have never gained 1 yard. They've never scored 1 point. Players do. So, again, find work. It doesn't mean you completely neglect your zone, but if you're smart enough as a football player and you know what concept they're running, when your zone's clear, go looking for work. Don't just stand there. Don't just, kind of play patty cakes. So, the big X factor for me, though, Tim, is Xavier McKinney, man. 84.7. Dude was just an absolute ball hawk. I want to be very, very clear here, though, guys. I do not expect Xavier McKinney to have the level of success he did last year. I hope he does. Please hear me. Don't take this the wrong way. I hope he gets more interceptions next year. But I feel like that's going to take a slight step back, and hopefully us as an offense can protect the ball to kind of neutralize that offset. Or maybe Evan Williams now steps up and counters that, right? It's just typically the second year in a defense. You get a new defensive coordinator. If they're a good defensive coordinator, their defense will typically improve tremendously. And in the second year, they take a slight step back. Now, Hafley could be the exception to the rule. If that's the case, we're looking for a new DC next year because he's going to be a head coach somewhere probably.
Right.
But that's kind of how you see that now with Xavier McKinney, though, what he did last year. This is what we're talking about. When you're talking about building a defense, and I talk about tier 1 of importance, Rashawn Gary, edge defender, that's a tier 1 position. 3 tech is tier 1. We're lacking at a 66.4 with Devontae White. Inside linebacker / Mike, if you want to call it, the very interchangeable. I love that they changed this too, Tim, because when you go to the base defense, notice how they got Mike, Sam, Will, but in the nickel, it's just right inside, left inside, because they're very interchangeable in the nickel. I love that they changed that this year. But again, if your 3 tech is stout, you got an edge defender opposite of him. What that does is it forces the offensive line to have to choose one to double team or take an extra receiver or target out of their route concept. So if you got tier 1, and then tier 2, there's your inside linebacker. Tier 2, there is your post safety, right? That's what we're talking about, is building the middle of the defense, right down the center of this defense, build it stout, because you've got 3 extra defenders on the outside called that out of bounds line, right? That's why teams struggle when they get inside the 10 to score touchdowns, because you've now got 3, really 4 extra defenders in that back line of the end zone. Yep. You know what I'm saying? So I get frustrated when I see defenders scraping the outside of that line. You know what I mean? Because it's like, what are you doing?
Use that line.
Yeah, that's an extra defender back there. So, but anyway, in terms of the 11 personnel, I've still got to give the edge to the Lions right now, based off of how our defense stacks up against theirs. But with the loss of Ragnow, right, and the loss of Ben Johnson, I think it's a lot closer this year, Tim. A lot closer.
I agree. I mean, you think about what Matt did when he came in here and tried to kind of marry that McCarthy scheme to his scheme and what he was trying to do and make it comfortable for his quarterback. Similar scenario, Aaron had Josh Myers, and we all remember snap the freaking ball, Josh, and that whole scenario. So you look at the success that we were able to kind of have with Matt in those first couple of years, and then look at the scenario that Detroit's in. It's really similar. You've got a veteran quarterback, you've got a unproven / possibly a rookie moving to center, and you've got a new OC. So it might even be harder on Detroit. How do you have a new OC trying to maybe combine things like you were saying earlier? Don't reinvent the wheel. We might try to expand upon what worked for us last year. Well, everyone that was here last year is gone, including the center. So
Right.
It's going to be pretty tough. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I would agree overall, man. I think Detroit may still have a slight edge, when you break down these matchups. That being said, 30 burger week 1, we're still getting the dub. Go Pack.
Love it. All right, moving on to 12. 12 base versus where's it at? Right here, right? So this is our base defense, our base 4-3 defense against their 12 personnel. Okay, so the only thing that changes is we now plug in Wright, the tight end that was a 52.1, very similar to our tight end coming in grading out much lower, and then we add McDuffie to the lineup if he's the starter. Now here's the thing: who's going to be the starting linebacker? Tim, we kind of talked about this the other night. We won't go too in depth in it this time, but when you look at the linebacker position, you're going to have Quay and you're going to have Edgerrin Cooper. Who's that third linebacker? It's between Tyron Hopper, Isaiah McDuffie, Isaiah Simmons, and probably I think Colin Oliver is a decent chance he's going to be playing a little stack backer in camp. That's one of the first questions I want answered, Tim, when camp kicks off. Where's Colin Oliver playing at?
Yeah, that's a great point. And I got to tell you, honestly, stack backer, my gut is telling me we might have a different Isaiah as our third. It could be Isaiah Simmons. I mean, he seems reinvigorated. We have to remember that he's still a young guy. There's still plenty of good football left in that player. I think there's a chance that maybe Isaiah Simmons steps up and might snatch that role from, say, Isaiah McDuffie or even a Tyron Hopper.
Yeah. I would love to see Simmons take that role, but in a perfect world for me, it would be Tyron Hopper that wins it.
Oh, yeah.
And not just win it because he's, the younger draft pick. We spent a 3rd-round pick on him, but win it because he's the best player. Like, that would be absolutely awesome. But if it's Isaiah Simmons, so be it, right? If Colin Oliver, if they just work him into a few packages, and it kind of feels like the Colin Oliver being a little bit of that hybrid backer, kind of like a smaller Leo or a Viper type backer.
Yeah.
If he's going to play that role in Matt and Jeff Hafley's offense, maybe they're going to bend it in that direction. Maybe they're going to do. I mean, listen, we ran a lot of fire zone blitzes last year. When I say fire zone, it wasn't technically a blitz; it was fire zone principle, but we still only brung 4 on the rush. Right.
Right.
This year, you get a team in a 3rd and 12 situation, or even a 3rd and 8. Get Colin Oliver out there and go, hey. I want you playing over the center in a stack backer role, and then right before the ball is snapped, I want you to jump in the outside shoulder of that guard and work a twist with Gary, whatever, right? Work a little stunt play. So
that could be a problem for not only Detroit but any offensive line in the NFL if that starts working.
And in the past, you would get concerned that, man, if you did that, does that make you vulnerable against the run? It can, but to me, Hafley, he seems like he's got his T's crossed and his I's dotted. When we ran twists and stunts last year, you would think, okay, as much as we did that, whether we blitzed or not, it's still a twist and still a stunt, even though you're bringing just 4. We still finished with the 2nd best run defense in the league. So you feel really comfortable that, hey, they're not going to burn you here if they take that approach. Now, they're showing Montgomery in here in the backfield now, the 10th highest graded running back. Tim, that's a 2-headed monster for the Lions, man.
Yeah.
Between Gibbs and Montgomery, that's arguably the best backfield in the league. And I feel really, really good about our backfield, especially with even with the emergence of Marshawn Lloyd. And I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised at how good of a football player he is if he stays healthy this year. But having Josh Jacobs and Emmanuel Wilson, I put our backfield up with just about anybody.
Me too.
But when I look at the Lions, well, that's when you got 2 backs that have elite grades like that, and they've had significant snaps. That's a different ball.
Certainly, probably the best tandem back, right? The best tandem running backs, probably. I look at us and, like, you're right. If Marshawn Lloyd takes the step that we know he's capable of taking, and Emmanuel Wilson continues to improve, and Josh Jacobs continues to be the beast that he is, by committee, we belong in that conversation too. I feel like we have just as good a running back room as anybody else in the NFL, honestly. I really do.
Yeah. Greg Rice says, weren't we a low blitz team? We were. So when you hear us talk about fire zone blitzes and things like that, it's only a blitz if 5 rushers come after the quarterback. Okay. So what we would do last year is run a lot of stunts. We'd run a lot of torch blitzes, things like that, torch looks. So essentially what you've got is with a fire zone blitz, we may fire the nickel, and that looks like a fire zone blitz, right? Okay, you got the 4 defensive linemen and the nickel blitzing. But we would drop the edge defender on the opposite side out. When you hear us say Leo or you hear us say Viper, that's the type of hybrid player that is. We were doing that with Enigbare a lot last year. Like, that's the other thing too. His pressure percentage went down, but we asked him to drop into coverage several times. So what you'll do is you'll come out here with the illusion of, hey, we're bringing 4, right? And then he would do a quick jab step, drop into a curl flat, or even most of the time his was a hook curl, and we would rotate the safety down on the curl flat. So when you drop, 55 and Enigbare back in that hook curl, we would fire the nickel off, okay? Or we would have times that the nickel would show blitz, right? And then he would drop into coverage, fire zone blitz principle. And then you would have 55 drop out as well, and we would bring Cooper on a blitz, right? So when I say blitz, it's a rush. It's not really a blitz. So when you ask, weren't we a low blitz team? We were, because the majority of the time we were had one of the lowest numbers of more than 4 rushers going after the quarterback. Okay, so it's fire zone blitz principles while only bringing 4. There was times we had the defensive tackle dropping into coverage too. You know what I mean? And in that case, you would fire the nickel, you would let the edge blitz, and then you would have the D tackle engage and then drop back and kind of play a little shallow curl flat. And that's typically with teams that like to leak little Texas routes out of the backfield, or they like to, maybe run shallow crosses, things like that. You're taking the safety valve away, right? So Pointer Doug says Simmons as a spy or too tall. I think he could spy. I think he could. If you're genuinely asking, do I think he could? I mean, he's got the athleticism. The problem with the spy, and we did a lot of touch spy, Tim, if you remember, when we watched the tape, Chalk Talk last year, we would do a lot of touch spy with the backer. Remember?
Quay. Yeah, Quay was a master at that.
They would do a double A-gap mug, right, where they're both in the A-gap, and he would smack the center, and then he would drop back and play that shallow spy, especially against teams that have scrambling quarterbacks, right? So I think Simmons could do that. I do. But I don't know.
So could Coop. Coop could probably play the spy too in a pinch. Yep.
Listen, I'm trying not to overreact, Tim, but what I've seen out of Cooper last year, man.
I know. I
have not seen that in a linebacker in Green Bay. Some people say, what about Clay Matthews? Clay Matthews was typically a pass rusher, right?
Right. He was an edge before it was cool.
And when Clay moved to middle linebacker, he played good. I was surprised. I was like, damn, he picked that up pretty quick. Nothing like what Cooper played. I mean, Cooper. Yeah. And again, I know this will be a perfect one to clip and say, hey, look at this overreaction, idiot. There's not many linebackers that I have watched and thought, man, that kind of reminds me of Lawrence Taylor. Like Fred Warner. Fred Warner is he's probably going to be a Hall of Fame linebacker.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that with Fred Warner. He's kind of a gap destroyer and plays excellent zone. With Cooper, it was just like, turn that son of a gun loose. You almost, like the way they used to use Lawrence Taylor with the Giants, he had freedom to do whatever he wanted to do on the field. I'm not suggesting we do that with Cooper, but the impact that LT had, again, maybe it's just because I've never seen it in Green Bay that I'm overreacting, but when I see Cooper, it was just like, man, this dude, he reminds me of that. He does. And they let LT do what he wanted to do. Like, I'll never forget that one of my favorite stories. We'll get ready to wrap up here, but one of my favorite stories was Bill Belichick said that Lawrence Taylor came into the meeting late, right? Came into a defensive meeting late. And afterwards, he went to Belichick went to Bill Parcells and said, Bill, Lawrence Taylor been sleeping in the meetings. He came in late today. He said, we had to start the meeting without him. And Bill said, never start the meeting without him. Like, he was like, I don't care that he's late. Like, you started the meeting without LT? No, we don't do that. You wait on him. Like, that's how important.
And then they would come to find out that LT, he had a grasp of everything.
Oh,
like,
dude, he was.
You know, they thought, oh man, he's late. He didn't show up. He's not. He knew exactly what was going on in that defense.
Yep. Ed Madden says, I haven't had anyone like Coop since maybe Nick Barnett. I watched Nick Barnett. I watched his entire career, Ed. It's not even close.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And again, it's only 1
Coop
year.
makes Nick Barnett look like Devondre Campbell.
Yeah, it's only 1 year. It's only 1 year.
Yeah.
But, man. Yeah. He
it's hard not to be excited, right? Like
it is, because
there's nothing wrong with being excited, but I'm with you. You don't want to get ahead of your skis, right?
I just try to be realistic, and hopefully y'all, like, when you tune in to the show and we break down tape, it's, you know, like we do a post game show. There's a lot of emotion, and I tell the guys, hey, if it's a loss, 15-minute cool off. We're not going to get in here and act like a bunch of drunken idiots like other people do and scream, fire this guy, fire that guy. He sucks. He's a bum. I'm not doing that on this channel. I'm not going to do it. And then when things go really, really good, I want it to be high, you know, like high energy, a lot of fun. Hey, this is just, let's crack open a cold one and enjoy the win type thing. But also you want to look at hey, we got to curb the enthusiasm a little bit. Let's don't turn into a bunch of fanboys, right? Like, let's talk about what I always say, Tim, right? If you see it, you got to say it. You know, what happened? Why did it happen? That's our goal when we're breaking down tape and you know, kind of, I don't know, reviewing everything. But watching Cooper, man, I kept getting pissed because it's like, why ain't he on the field? Get him on the freaking field. Like, until he proves he can't do it, get him on the freaking field. What are we doing? Yep. And I know he started the season a little banged up, and that's the thing. He was healthy in the regular season, but he got banged up in camp. And I think there was some hesitation there, like, I don't know if he's ready. I don't care. Like, get him on the football field. And he's one of those players that we talked about was an ascending player coming into the league. He was playing his best football as last year in college, and he was getting better as the year went on. So I'll tell you, a player that was doing that was Matthew Golden.
I was just going to say, that's
his entire college.
Read my mind, man. Just like Matt Golden, right?
Houston, you know, under recruited, goes to Houston. And then Texas came calling, sent him an NIL deal. Hey, let's get his butt over here in Texas. He goes to Texas, and it's Isaiah Bond was supposed to be the featured wide receiver. He passes Isaiah Bond up on the depth chart, and he's still ascending. He may hit the ground running at the NFL level, man. That's going to be a lot of fun to see too. So, golly, Greg Rice says, could you imagine Lawrence Taylor with Reggie White? Oh, my God.
Holy cow.
Imagine this defense that we're looking at right here, Tim. And imagine Kenny Clark. And I know Reggie played a lot on the edge and everything, but imagine Kenny Clark being Reggie White, and imagine Enagbare being LT. Now, I know LT played linebacker, but they would blitz him a lot, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine having Kenny at 3 tech and LT rushing off the opposite edge?
Man.
There'd be more than Joe Theismann's leg getting broke. I promise you that. They'd have warrants for those guys' arrest throughout the league. They'd be hurting so many people. So if you're hearing my voice and you're maybe a younger fan and you're like, man, I keep hearing about Lawrence Taylor, but I've never seen it. Go to YouTube right now. Cut this stupid show off. Go over on YouTube. You're already on YouTube. Search at the top of the bar there and put Lawrence Taylor highlights and just sit back and enjoy the show. And try to get a mocked up one too, just to see how crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Those are the best.
Especially LT, man.
Yeah. All right, Tim, anything else, man? Ready to wrap this thing up?
No, good to be back, man. Hope everybody had a good weekend, and happy to be back talking ball. Training camp is almost here, guys. Almost.
Right around the corner. So we'll continue this little series. Tomorrow we're going to dive into how the Packers match up against the Vikings. We'll do the same type of thing. Now, we'll probably repeat a little bit of what we talked about when we're talking about the Packers, but the matchups are totally different, and we'll kind of look at how the Vikings roster has changed this year as well. I know I said I was going to do this. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Our buddy Aaron Rodgers had brung this up, and he actually sent it to me. So let me see if I can get it on the screen for you guys and gals, because this is really
that was really good at it.
Yeah, it's pretty clean, man. I ain't gonna lie, dude. So what he did was he put did somebody else? No, he did this. He definitely did this.
I'm pretty sure that was his. Yeah.
So you guys remember, and again, this was our buddy our Aaron Rodgers, not the Aaron Rodgers, with the super chat. Thank you for that, pal. This is what we were talking about that he put up on Twitter. So, guys, go give this a retweet. Go follow him too at AMRogers98. He said, "I see the vision." You see the old Sports Illustrated cover there. That is so sick, Tim. That goes so hard, man.
That was classic right there. I mean, look at that room.
Yeah,
look at that.
Yeah,
you and I could have had a pretty good season with that receiver room.
Kidding me, dude? I'd have thrown for 5,000 yards. So, for those who can't see the picture here, obviously listening on the podcast, it's that picture of Aaron Rodgers sitting on his helmet in the middle of the picture. Next to him is Randall Cobb on one side, Greg Jennings on the other. Then up top, you got Jordy Nelson, Donald Driver, James Jones, and Jermichael Finley. Like, solid. And of course, the other picture that he put together, Aaron Rodgers put together. And it's Jordan and Jaden Reed in the front, and then in the back you've got, of course, Romeo Dobbs. You got Matthew
Bird. I love it.
Tucker Kraft. Tucker Kraft was already off to a faster start than Jermichael Finley was. So for anybody who goes, "Oh, he's no Jermichael Finley," get your popcorn ready. I think Tucker Kraft's gonna blow up. And then of course Savion, just a damn man, dude. Look how big that dude is. He just broad shoulders. You know what I mean? When Christian Watson gets back too. Tim, if he's somehow ready before October, I'm going to lose my mind, dude.
Yeah. And let's talk about him too, man. He bulked up a little bit too. Scoot does not look like the wiry dude he looked like, the last couple seasons, man. I think he's really he's put some muscle on here during this whole rehab process.
Yeah, for sure.
Which of course is going to help you avoid injury. So I'm looking forward to seeing him back sooner than later.
Yeah. 2-0 for this, says Tucker Kraft's no Richard Rodgers. Hey, we all joke about Richard Rodgers, and I know Aaron was very, very excited to have another Cal Bear in-house, and I think he had like the highest catch percentage of all the tight ends coming in the draft that year. But boy, oh boy, that Hail Mary in Motown, that was worth the Richard Rodgers era for sure. What an awesome play that was. So, all right, guys, that's it. We're out of here. If y'all would, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new here, feel free to tune back in. We try to go live daily, depending on, what time of year it is and what content we have. Also, if you want to support the show, the best way to do so is just join our Patreon community, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. $3 is all it costs. And again, it's just a way to support the show. We get you extra content. All this information that I showed tonight, the matchup between the Packers and the Lions, you can find in our Patreon community, along with all kinds of other content, extra content in there. Scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to the same place there as well. Again, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. We'll be back tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Central Time for PTA Live. Everybody have a wonderful evening. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. And go Pack.
Here we go. We're out.
Bye, guys.